All right, comics people, it's the middle of the month, so you know what time it is, and I already spoiled it because I said the word comics. Yes, it's July's comics review, and it's actually quite an evenly distributed one. And we have something new this month, which I think I already told you was coming, but it's finally here, and it was awesome. But let's start with our usual. First up, issue 31, Avoid Rivals. This one, as you can see from the cover, focuses entirely on Skuxoid. Now, if you remember Skuxoid, he's kind of that weird creature that looks like he's made of rock and he's almost like a walking pig man, something like that. We haven't seen him for a while. It's been a number of issues since he's been in the action. So when he got captured by Skuxoid Alpha, I remember they were like making new Skuxoid as they were like chopping parts of Skuxoid off and making all these other Skuxoids. So he's been taken captive by Skuxoid Alpha, and he's trying to lead a revolt to get it because he wants to get back to his Rockoroid and get back to his normal life of bounty hunting and odd jobbing and whatever the hell else it is that he does. So as the action picks up off the start, he's in the middle of leading a revolt against Skuxoid Alpha, and he's like, attack! So he's got a number of other Skuxoid on his side, but as the fighting starts, Skuxoid Alpha is like, I don't think so. And then he's got way more guys behind him than Skuxoid has behind him. So it's the odds are not in Skuxoid's favor. So they start talking and bantering and stuff like that. And Skuxoid trying to persuade all of the other ones to come to his side and talking about how he just wants equality for all of them, whereas this guy just wants to lead, and he's just this old Skuxoid that doesn't even do anything. So then he challenges Skuxoid Alpha to a duel, and Skuxoid Alpha is like, what, you think I just been sitting on my throne being, inert or whatever? So they start battling, and Skuxoid Alpha has some moves. So it's a good battle. It's a good battle. But eventually Skuxoid gets the drop on Skuxoid Alpha, and eventually he takes him by the throat, and he's like, if you remember from the past, like he's all about finding his wife and kids because he has these memories of them, but they're gone. So he confronts Skuxoid Alpha, and he's shaking him by the scruff of the neck and be like, where are my wife and kids, motherfucker? Right? And then finally Skuxoid Alpha breaks down. He's like, they're dead. They're all dead. They died in a fire. It was no one's fault. And then he's like, I've been carrying this burden on my own, so nobody else had to carry it. So then Skuxoid kind of like appreciates that from him and realizes that, okay, this guy's been living in this grief all this time, and the rest of us are just confused about everything. So in the end, Skuxoid wins the duel, and he basically says to all the other ones, like, I don't want to lead you. I just want to go find my Rockoroid and get on with my life. You guys are all equal. Do with it what you will. And they're all like, well, what about Skuxoid Alpha? And Skuxoid is like, he's suffered enough. He's old. He's tired. Let him rest, kind of thing. So everything ends kind of peacefully. And then as Skuxoid is departing in a ship to go find his Rockoroid, the little computer monitor droid guy that was like supervising all the bisections when they were splitting all the Skuxoids, he runs up to him and he's like, oh, can I come with you? And Skuxoid is like, well, are you going to serve me? And he's like, oh, yes, okay. So then they're on the ship, and the last thing we see is Skuxoid just kind of slumped in a corner, just like kind of grieving for the loss of his family. And the little droid asks him, like, where to? And they find out that his Rockoroid has been traced to the planet Junkion. So they set course for Junkion. And if we remember what happened in the last issue, who ended up on Junkion? Was it Derek? No. But somebody else is on Junkion talking to one of the Cobra Law guys that was stranded there as well. So obviously Skuxoid is going to show up, and there's going to be, I don't know exactly. I don't know if there's going to be a brouhaha, if they're going to work together to do whatever. I don't know. But we will find that out for sure in issue 32 next month. All right, next up, we got a few issues of Turtles. This is easily the biggest stack of what I have. We start off with issue 38 of the Saturday Morning Adventures. So in this one, April is calling the Turtles to come to her workplace at Channel 6 News in disguise because she's got something urgent to show them. So when they get up to her office, Casey Jones is there, and he's looking a little beat up. So like, bro, what's up? And he's like, well, I got beat up by the purple dragons. And they're like, oh, your old running mates? Like, how did you let that happen? And then he kind of goes into a story about exactly what happened. And he was they were robbing someplace, and he broke up the robbery and started beating the shit out of them. But then Hun, I don't know if you know Hun. Hun wasn't in the original 1987 Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles cartoon. He showed up, I think, in the next series, and then off and on throughout various other series as one of their enemies. And so he's just a big burly dude. But in this issue, he has been mutated, we don't know how, into a purple lizard-looking type of creature, and very powerful. Casey Jones couldn't beat him. Hun got the drop on him and got away with whatever they were doing. And so then Casey limped back to Channel 6 News. So they come up with this scheme that April's going to go on air and do this fake report that TCRI has come into the possession of this purple dragon statue that's made of crystal and is thought to be possibly extraterrestrial in origin and may have these powers and stuff. So Shredder and the purple dragons and everybody in Hun are watching this broadcast, and they're like, oh, we have to have that, right? So but it's all a big trap. So they lure Hun and the purple dragons and Shredder to TCRI. The turtles and everybody are there waiting for them. Basically beat the piss out of them, and I thought there was some other thing that happened. Oh yeah, right here. So that's basically the main part of the story. The other thing that happened was in Central Park, these 3 bird-looking mutants, they look like swans or something like that, pop out of thin air and fall into Central Park, and they talk about going after the heart of something, like some sort of artifact, it sounds like. But they come onto the city of New York, and they're going like, how the hell are we going to find it in this monstrosity, right? Because the city's so big, sort of thing. So I don't know who these guys are. I've never seen them before. So we have some new characters in this story, which is kind of cool. So, and they're kind of dressed, they gave me a very Nazi vibe to them, especially the main guy, the leader, what he was wearing and stuff like that. It seemed very Nazi-ish to me. So they are obviously not good guys, or at least that's the impression I get from them at the start, when they first popped up there. So I can't wait to see where that goes, because it's nice when they introduce some new characters, especially when they get the characters right. And I think these guys are going to be pretty sick once the action starts unfolding. Next up, issue 9 of the Shredder sub-series. So as this one kicks off, Agent Bronze from the EPF is basically getting a lecture from all of his superiors that, you know, you haven't caught Shredder yet. Like, what the fuck is wrong with you? I'd really be questioning my ability to do the job at this point based on your performance, right? So he's like, Shredder dies tonight. So meanwhile, Shredder is in Tokyo with Hoshimi, who was the Dogstar Clan girl that he kind of allied with at the end of the last issue. And they are going to the building where Yoshi Chen is his body is, and Yoshi Chen has this parasitic alien creature embedded in him, and it allows the building to have all these defenses that are going to be very hard for them to fight through. And it's what allowed this parasitic relationship with this thing is what, and Yoshi Chen's cybernetic implants is what allowed him to communicate with all of the Dogstar soldiers, like telepathically almost, and that sort of thing. So, and I forget the name of he's the nerd guy who's such an asshole, who's such a gross asshole, who's behind this whole thing. He's in the building, getting prepared for this assault because he knows it's coming. And while they're kind of featuring him for a little while in the issue, he goes back into kind of like a remembrance of when he first found this alien creature that he put inside of Yoshi Chen. He was out on a boat somewhere and he saw something in the ocean, this glowing thing, and so he got the guys on the boat to bring it in, and it was this big green alien looking egg, and then this little alien creature is what came out of it, and that's how he came to find it and embedded in Yoshi Chen, and how all of this madness of the Dogstar Clan started. So he kind of talks or thinks back on that. And in the meantime, Shredder and Hoshimi have got to the building and they're starting their assault. So they're fighting through all of these defenses and stuff like that. And meanwhile, the EPF have been mobilized to go to Tokyo and take the Shredder in and end all this madness, right? So Eventually, Shredder and Hoshimi get to where Yoshi-Chen is, and then the nerd guy that's behind all this stuff, he engages with them. But this guy can't fight, so it's a lot of talking. And he has the parasite in his hand, and he kind of throws it at Shredder as the fighting starts. So Shredder and Hoshimi are fighting off all of these defenses. They're trying to get Yoshi-Chen's body out of the building. And meanwhile, the EPF are charging up the stairs and burst into the room, and they're firing bullets everywhere. The nerd guy is killed, which is good because he was such a loser and behind all of this nonsense. So he's off the board now. And eventually, Hoshimi and Shredder escape with Yoshi-Chen's body, but not before Agent Avon is the first EPF member into the room, and her and Shredder have a little powwow, and they kind of confirm that, okay, this went well. Phase 2 of our plan comes next. And she's like, you better get out of here. I'll just tell them that you slipped away before we got to you, and then we'll be able to go ahead with our plans after. So Agent Avon is still officially working with Shredder, despite making it look like she's a dutiful EPF soldier out to get him, right? So, and then as the issue is closing, Hoshimi's like, oh, that was great, Shredder. Like, we did a good job in there. Everything looked good. And then he goes, well, we may have a bit of a complication. And he opens up his shirt, and the alien parasite that was inside Yoshi-Chen, this little green slug thing, is now embedded in him. So what the hell is that going to do, right? Shredder with an alien symbiote? That could be bad news for, well, pretty much everyone, I would guess, right? Last up, issue 19 of the regular ongoing Turtles series. So in this one, Tang Shen, the Turtles' mother and Splinter's wife, is still on the living side of things, and she's down in the sewer with her sons and Splinter, and she's like remembering their time long ago. And I mean, the Turtles weren't actually their kids back then. They actually had real kids, but you know, but the Turtles are kind of like their honorary kids sort of thing, right? So, or at least that's what I think. Maybe in this version they were actual kids that got mutated into turtles. I don't know, but to me they're always turtles that get mutated into humans, or somewhat human. So she's remembering these festivals they used to go to in the summer and the food they used to eat there and stuff. And then the Turtles are like, we can give you that. So they take Tang Shen out for like a day on the town. They go to like the Statue of Liberty. They go to a pizza joint. They go to Coney Island, a whole bunch of stuff. When they're at Coney Island, this yak mutant, I can't remember his name. I've never seen him before. He attacks with the Ghost Boys gang, and they try to kidnap Splinter. And so the Turtles give chase, and the Turtles are like, April, can you keep our mom safe while we engage this guy? So they chase them down. They beat up the Ghost Boys. Tang Shen actually helps, jumps into the fray and helps as well. And in the end, they're able to turn this yak mutant aside and rescue Splinter, right? So then afterwards, they go back to the sewer, and Tang Shen is like, it's so different here, and I don't belong here. Like, I'm dead. I believe I belong on the other side of the gateway, and I've got to tend to that tree of visions or whatever it is, you know, that she was in charge of. I gotta go, guys. So she pulls out the little door knocker artifact and starts to go back to the portal of death, right? But remember at the end of last issue, I think it was, there were those two weird looking beings that were like, came up on the tree, and it's like, where's Tang Shen? Like, her inability to manage this tree is tearing this place apart, sort of thing. Like, she needs to be here. So when she comes through the portal, they're there waiting for her, and they immediately like are all over her and attacking her in a way. And the Turtles are like, let your hands off our mom. So they engage these people, and eventually they're able to pull her back to the living side and save her from whatever the hell was going to happen to her on the other side. And in the end, the Turtles reveal to her that they take her to this place, and they reveal that they've got her an apartment in the city, and they decorated it up to look just like feudal Japan. Like, the inside is all, you know, the wood and the slidey doors and everything. And so she's like, oh, this is amazing. Thanks, family, whatever. And but before that ending, there's a couple of things going on. That yak mutant and his Ghost Boys gang report back to Baxter Stockman that oh yes, the Turtles and Splinter are all alive and well, and their mother is here as well, sort of thing. So Baxter takes this information, and you can see him mulling it over. And then the last thing we see is one of Karai's mutants spying on the Turtles and reporting back to her also that, yeah, Splinter's indeed alive, and the Turtles' mother is somehow here. So they've got trouble coming from a couple of different angles, and soon enough we'll see just what kind of trouble that's going to entail. But you know, when Karai and Baxter Stockman are behind the trouble, it's not going to be good for the Turtles. All right, now this is the something new that I was really excited about that I did, I think, mention in the past couple of videos. So you probably are aware that it was coming if you listen to any of those videos. It is issue 1 of the Mask series. Mask gets their own series, but of course they're all tied up in the Energon universe with G.I. Joe and Transformers. So this issue starts off kind of in the middle of the last, it must have been G.I. Joe issue. Remember when Matt Tracker was in his Camaro car or Firebird or whatever it is, and being chased by the military, and he was on the line with I can't remember who it was, maybe Duke or somebody like that. This is right where that picks up. He's being chased and all these military vehicles behind him, and they're coming to this canyon, this crevasse, and instead of flying over it, because the Thunderhawk can open its wings and fly, but I don't know if he did malfunction or whatever, but he stops short right at the edge of the cliff, and he does get arrested by the military and taken into custody, sort of thing. The other thing that's happening while all this is going on is that Miles Mayhem, the leader of Venom, which is the opposite organization to Matt Tracker's Mask, his 2 agents, Vanessa Warfield and Rax, are out talking to some persons of interest who have coordinates to something that they're after, or they believe might have coordinates to something they're after. So Vanessa's interrogating one guy. He doesn't know anything. Rax is interrogating one guy by dragging him along the ground as Rax is driving his motorcycle. But this guy, what the hell is that? This guy doesn't know anything either. So they kind of get in touch with Miles, and they're like, Miles, we got no luck with our guys. What about you? And it shows Miles Mayhem sitting there talking to this guy about, well, you found something up in the Arctic or wherever it was that looked like maybe extraterrestrial in origin. We want the coordinates to this device and whatever, blah blah blah. And then as he finally stands up and shakes the guy's hand, we see the other guy, and he's just basically a skeleton now because Miles did something to him that fucking melted him or something, right? So, I mean, I know this guy's a whack job because I watched the Mask cartoon when I was a kid, but all of you who aren't familiar with Mask may not know that Miles Mayhem is a maniac, but he's officially a maniac. So while all this is happening, Matt Tracker is now taken captive in a military compound. He's brought in for questioning, and General Flagg comes in and starts talking to Matt Tracker about what Miles Mayhem has been up to, blah blah blah. But Matt Tracker's not giving him any of it. He's not having it. So he basically tells General Flagg, okay, so you created Shadow Watch. That was the organization that both Miles and Matt Tracker were working for under General Flagg's leadership to basically develop technology to combat the giant robots that had started coming on the scene, like Starscream and all the Decepticons, right? So that's, and Matt Tracker's like this genius with robotics and technology and stuff. And obviously Miles Mayhem is as well, and they were working together. So then I guess what happened was Miles Mayhem liked Matt Tracker and told him everything, but eventually turned on him and told General Flagg that Matt Tracker was working for the enemy and giving them secrets and stuff like that of what they were doing. So they immediately believed Miles Mayhem at his word, tried to arrest Matt Tracker, and that's when he fled. And remember, he was kind of on the lam when Clutch was bringing Hound to him to get fixed and stuff. He was always in hiding and moving around. But now General Flagg knows that that's not that's not what happened. That Miles Mayhem is the bad guy and Matt's the good guy. So he's essentially just bringing Matt Tracker back on board and not really letting Matt talk about, well, no, like I'm not doing that. Like you guys fuck me, whatever. But General Flag just keeps on bowling ahead, and eventually, like they take his cuffs off, and they're like they're gonna let him go free and whatever. But suddenly, one of the soldiers in the room turns on everybody, and Matt's like, "Yeah, I saw." So basically, the mask and the Venom teams wear, they have a little chip behind the ear, and they press it, and that's what makes the mask come out and cover their head. So Matt was like, I was ready for you. I saw that chip behind your ear. And Miles Mayhem has agents everywhere, doesn't he? So then a big fight ensues between Matt and this soldier, and Matt eventually wins. And Flag's like, okay, this is what you do. You're now under my watch as part of the G.I. Joe team and blah, blah, blah. And Matt's like, no. That's not the way this is going to work. Not after everything you fucking did to me. He said, where's my car? And Flag's like, we have it here. It's impounded. So Matt like presses a button. Thunderhawk's wings come up, comes and hovers over like where Matt is inside the building, and there's a hole blown in the ceiling, and Matt goes up on this rope or line into the Thunderhawk and throws General Flag a mask watch so he can keep in touch. And General Flag is now Agent 42 of the mask team, but Matt basically says, you're not my boss. I'm not working for you, basically. I'm doing my own thing, and I'm going to do the right thing, but you're not telling me what to do and how to do it and when to do it, sort of thing, right? So he's taking off into the sky to go do whatever step is next for Matt Tracker in his fight against Venom. Very awesome issue. I like how it tied right in to an instance in the G.I. Joe issue that involved Matt. All of these universes are blending together, you know what I mean? Void Rivals, Transformers, G.I. Joe, now we got the Mask series. All these storylines are blending together and whatever. And I wonder, like, I'm really curious, like, at the comic headquarters of Image or whatever, like, they obviously had to flesh out a plan for all of these series to cross mingle and stuff, right? And be like, okay, you know, Mask is going to enter at this point. How do we set the stage here? At what issue do we bring him in? Blah, blah, blah. Like, I'd love to see the strategy behind it all and see exactly how it's planned out, because it's been so seamless between all four of these different franchises, how they've all mixed together and made this one giant storyline that's been so amazing and fun to witness, right? So I love it. And what I'm looking most forward to next month is the second issue of Mask. Even though G.I. Joe and Transformers are my favorite of all time, the fact that like Mask was not too far behind those two, and they didn't get Mask didn't get as much post cartoon action as G.I. Joe and Transformers did. Like, both of those series had other cartoon series after, live action movies, comic books, blah blah blah, right? Toy lines. Whereas Mask really just kind of stalled, you know. So to see Mask brought back alive in comic format has just been so much fun. So I'm really, really looking forward to issue 2 in August. All right, next up, one lonely issue of Transformers as usual, and that would be issue number 33. So as this issue starts off, Spike is like writing in his journal, talking about what's been going on. There has been a bit of peace fall upon them after their last battle with the Decepticons. He's talking about how Carly is enjoying the downtime by doing lots of fun stuff. Like, you could see her driving one of the Autobots and racing Cliffjumper. RC, who's now RC Magnus, is training to try and get better at her new job. Wheeljack is helping to rebuild Chicago. Optimus and Beachcomber and the other Autobots are rebuilding stuff closer by, but Spike waxes on the fact that Optimus seems different now. Now that he's no longer Optimus Prime, it feels like he's taking risks and he's trying to be more than what he is, because he was used to being more powerful as Optimus Prime, and now he's lost some of that power, and he doesn't know if, you know, he has enough strength and ability to carry on with this mission, sort of thing, right? So he's having all these doubts, and he has a little good chat with Spike about it, which helps him and stuff like that. And then he also talks to RC Magnus about about everything, and he's basically got a lot of misgivings, and he's unsure about his abilities and in his role of what's going to come in the future, right, with the Decepticons and everything. Also, what's going on at the same time, Elita 1 and the Autobots that went back up to Cybertron, which is like Ultra Magnus, Sideswipe, Jazz, Bulkhead, and a bunch of other ones. They slipped the Decepticons in the last issue, I think is what happened. They got into a bit of a scuffle, and Elita, changed into a weapon or something. She got them off their backs. They're racing back to their base, and Blue Streak intercepts them, and he's like, "Whoa, your mission was a success. Look at all these guys." And he's like, "Whoa, you look different, Elita." So then they start going, turn and head towards the base still, and then Blue Streaks and is like, "And boy, do we have a surprise for you." So they get back to base, and suddenly we see Springer and Hot Rod have returned. And if you'll remember, way back in Void Rivals, Springer and Hot Rod were on Agoria and Zertonia, friends with Derek and stuff, during the whole Void Rivals, the battle between the Agorians and Zertonians, with Zerta Trion or Zerta whatever, and then remember they left after the battle was over, so they have showed up back at base on Cybertron, so that's a bit of a boost to the Cybertronian Autobot forces. And then the other thing that's going on, Wheeljack eventually leaves Chicago and goes to make his new lab at the shard of Cybertron that had fell into the ocean. And so he's working on some stuff, and he's hanging from some wires, welding or doing some stuff, and he suddenly slips and he falls down. And we don't see what happens, but we just see him kind of lift his head up, and there's like a blue glow, and we just hear him go like, "Whoa." So he has discovered something inside that shard of Cybertron, but we're not going to find out until August, for fuck's sake. And the only other thing going on is the Decepticons get a bit of action right at the end of the issue. If you remember correctly, Megatron had that sickness, and he was going berserk and beating on his own people. I mean, not that that's entirely out of character for him. He is a maniac, but even more so than usual. And then remember last issue, like, suddenly he fell to the ground and was like, blah, 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 and then all these purple crystals started growing all over him. So essentially the surviving Decepticons are standing around looking at it and going, "Well, that was fucking weird. Like, what the hell is this?" And Rumble's like, "Well, at least he isn't beating on us anymore." So they don't really know what's going on. So they just get on with business. And then somebody asks like, "Oh, and what happened to Starscream?" And then the last big full panel of the issue we see is Starscream out in the ocean, because the Nemesis is their home base, and it's at the bottom of the ocean. We see Starscream like all beat up and with a fucking crazy looking face, like crawling along the ocean floor. So he'll be back, and he'll be a pain in Megatron's ass once Megatron comes out from whatever this crystal cocoon is or whatever it is, right? So can't wait to see what happens out of that whole scenario, because those two hate each other, and we'll see. Okay, last up, G.I. Joe. We got 2 issues for you. First up, issue 23 of that like kind of origin series. So if you remember where we left off, Cobra Commander had sent Destro, Mercer, and that girl, I forget her name, to this location. And the Joes had sent Stalker, Risk, and Baroness to the same location because there was Energon readings coming from there, right? So remember they went there, but Crystal Ball, the guy that mind fucks people, he was in this village where they were getting the Energon readings from, and he was using people's own night fears and doubts and past terrible experiences against them, and he was kind of tricking them with all of these illusions, right? So it picks up with Risk kind of being the last one that he didn't take advantage of yet, and he was starting to battle him. So he's fighting off some snakes, I think, at first, and then eventually Cristobal is thinking, he's like, okay, I'm going to do this memory of him. And so like where the estate where Risk grew up shows up, and he goes inside and he hears all these comments from his parents, like he's such an asshole, he can never stay in school and be a good boy, blah blah blah, all these doubts and bad things people said about him. And he's like, well, that's all you got? I can take it, blah, blah, blah. And so then he prepares to like fight his ghostly looking parents. But then suddenly Mercer is there and they start getting into a real fight, and beating the shit out of each other. In the meantime, while they're fighting, we see Baroness and Destro stumble upon each other and get into a fight, but eventually call it a stalemate and agree to work together until they both find all of their other team members and then fuck off. And whatever happens after that happens after that. So while they're exploring, they find a room chock filled with energon. So they're like, whoa, Cobra Commander was right. Like, there's lots of energon here to be used. And as they move past the energon, they find Stalker and fuck, I forget the name of the Cobra girl, hooked up to this machine. I don't know exactly what's happening, but Crystal Ball has them hooked up to something, so they want to try and rescue them, sort of thing, right? And that's as far as we see that part of the story get. Then eventually we see Mercer and Risk's fight come to an end as Risk kind of gets the drop on Mercer and kind of chokes him out. And Mercer and Risk eventually get to talking, and Risk, Mercer asks, like, who were those soldier guys that you... Oh, that's who he's fighting at the start. The soldiers, the ghosts of the squad that he got killed by not doing his due diligence on an operation, that he's lived with that guilt for so long. So Mercer's asking him, like, who were those guys? And Risk was like, well, those are my buddies that I got killed because I fucked up and whatever. And so then they start talking, and Mercer starts to go like, I'm starting to like you a little bit, and you know how to throw a punch. So they're starting to get along. But then Mercer starts getting attacked by more of Crystal Ball's illusions, and Risk jumps in to help fight. But soon enough, Crystal Ball makes himself present. He shows up with this weird looking crazy mask on, and he's like, you have shown that my dire tech works, that I can use people's own nightmares and worst fears against them. And he's like, now you must tell me who sent you here to take my technology and why. So that's the last thing, is we see Crystal Ball kind of creeping up on Risk and asking him these questions and getting ready to take him to the cleaners, so to speak. Last up, issue 329 of the regular ongoing G.I. Joe series. This was a pretty cool issue. So there's two things going on. The girls that were in the jungle that were looking for that terror drome that was inside the temple, the pyramid or whatever, they're returning to the pit and to do their debrief with Duke and whatever. And in the meantime, Dr. Mindbender and Alpha 01, who is the leader of the Revenge cyborgs or whatever they are, they're talking about how, remember on the brainwave scanner right at the end of the last issue, Dr. Mindbender saw that image of the attic that's in Snake Eyes' memories, and also Sean Collins and also Don Moreno's, because they all share these memories thanks to Dr. Venom's brainwave scanner. So Dr. Mindbender and Alpha 01 decide to use a machine to go into that memory, into that attic, and check it out, because they have kind of figured out that there's got to be something hidden in there. And eventually they do find it, and it's actually an Easter egg that they find. And they discover that, oh, it's on a timer. Okay. And there's not much time left on this timer. So in the meantime, Duke debriefs Dawn and figures out, and she tells him about, she had this memory of this image of this attic that something's hidden in that could cause trouble if it's activated through Dawn, Snake Eyes, and Sean Collins. And so Duke is like, okay, we're gonna put you in solitary and lock you up, not because you did anything wrong, not whatever, but if this goes off and you become a danger, like, we just need to have you contained until we figure this out, sort of thing. And Dawn's like, yeah, I totally get it, whatever. So they're in the process of taking her to confinement, where Law and Order is gonna put her in her cell. And in the meantime, Duke and everybody's like, okay, so where's Snake Eyes and where are Sean Collins? And they're like, Snake Eyes is up with Scarlet at their cabin in the Sierras. We can't really get through to them, it's so remote. And Sean Collins is in Darklonia with Agent Helix, and who was the other person on that mission? There's one other person on the mission. I can't remember who it is. And Beachhead, I think it was. And they're searching for a terror drone in Darklonia. So suddenly there's some brief cutscenes um, from Snake Eyes and Scarlet up at their cabin. Timber shows up at the door. They're having fun, whatever. And meanwhile, in Darklonia, we see Sean Collins and the other two get intercepted by a band of, I don't know, renegades or rebels or something like that, and get in a bit of a skirmish with them. And as all this stuff is going on, the Easter egg finally goes off, and Dawn is just about to go into her cell, but she escapes, takes everybody down. I don't think she kills anybody, but she takes them down, and then makes her escape, sort of thing. So she's somewhere loose in the pit. Meanwhile, in Darklonia, Sean Collins goes mental as well and starts going crazy, and Agent Helix and Beachhead kind of back off and leave him on his own because they can't engage him. They don't want to hurt him. But then Agent Helix is like, well, we can't just leave him with those rebels. And the Beachhead is like, I don't think we have to worry about him being captured by the rebels, right? So they kind of back away to get out of that situation. And then the last one, Snake Eyes, suddenly he starts wigging out, and Scarlet is like, Snake Eyes, like, what's going on? And he's got like his hand over his face, and you can just see his eyes sticking through his fingers. He's like, run, right? So he knows something bad is coming, and he wants to save Scarlet. So we'll see if she listens or not. I'm gonna guess she doesn't until it's too late, but maybe Timber will save her. Who knows? I don't know, but I can't wait to see how this shitstorm sorts itself out in next month. So yeah, we got a lot of good things to look forward to in August in terms of where all these stories are at, and a lot of exciting stuff coming next. Yeah, can't wait. Couple weeks, I'll pick up the issues. Couple weeks after that, you'll be hearing from me again. That's a fucking promise. Peace. Meow.